want to talk to you about your control freak. So many people use control as a way to help themselves to feel better. If you find that you've been doing that, you've been setting a trap for yourself. So, control freaks of the world, this chat is for you. In my own personal transformation journey, when I was trying to find a way to feel good inside of myself, I had an insight one day, and that was about control. And it was so awakening for me, so shocking, to realize that the very, very technique that I had been using to try to make myself feel better about myself, feel better about my life, feel more comfortable and happy, was the very thing that was creating discomfort and happiness within me. And the more time I spend with my clients and the more I see their little methodologies for trying to help themselves to feel good, the more I see my own methodologies for trying to help myself feel good, the more I've come to realize that it's actually almost universally the things that we're trying to use to make ourselves feel okay in the outside world that are actually the traps that stop us from feeling okay inside. So let me give you an example of what I mean. If I decided, for instance, that, let's say I decided that I needed to be somewhere in 20 minutes' time. And I get on the road and I'm busy driving to this place, and next thing there's a roadblock or a traffic jam or something's going on, and it's going to cause me to be late. Now, there was a time when that would be hectically uncomfortable for me because I've got a very strong value system for being on time. And I left myself 20 minutes, I only needed 15 minutes to get there. That's how we do things when we are obsessed with time. But with this very strong value system to being on time, I've got a lot of thinking and a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of chaos going on around what it means to not be on time for myself and for other people. So I get very attached as a result of all of that to being in control of being on time. Now I've hit this roadblock or this traffic jam, and it turns out it's going to be impossible for me to be on time today. What happens inside of me? Well, if I wasn't very attached to controlling the outcome that I wanted, if I could be with what is actually happening in the world, with what's true in the world, then I would know that there's nothing I can do about this thing here. I'm just going to have to sit through this time, and I would be able to just relax, release any stuff that's going on, and be with the truth. I'm not going to be on time today. And by the time the roadblock clears, or I'm through the traffic jam, or whatever it is, I can keep moving and arrive at my destination. Maybe I'm 5 minutes late, maybe I'm 10 minutes late, maybe I picked up the phone, made a call, said I'm going to be late. But the truth of the matter is, no amount of emotional desire to be on time is going to change the fact that in this occasion I'm going to be late. So when I've got this control freak experience, this very strong emotional desire to have this thing be on time in this example, I get myself very caught up in that in the moment that there's a traffic jam. I get myself very anxious about the outcome that's going to be not what I want it to be. I'm going to be late. I get myself very worked up and unhappy and freaked out by this not being on time thing. And it's because I've attached being on time to all of this other stuff about who am I? Am I reliable? Am I reasonable? Am I a person that you can trust? Is it appropriate? Do I treat you with respect and honor? Am I doing the things that I think are important in my life based on my value systems by being on time? Now, the truth of the matter is, I am whatever person I am. All of these things are true for me. And even so, sometimes I'm not on time. I can't always control the outcome of what I'm looking for. So I need to start to think about how these things that I've set in stone for me are affecting my well-being in my life. If I'm insistent on something being a certain way, and I cannot be with what is, it means I'm by default going to have to be uncomfortable. And the strange irony of it all is that I've set it to look a certain way because I'm thinking, if it's this certain way, I will be more comfortable. Do you see the problem? If it isn't that, I have to be uncomfortable, and I've set it that so that I can be comfortable. Well, what would happen if I was a bit more light in my control? If I was a little bit more easy about what could be? Let's say I still have a value system to being on time. I still think it's important to honor people by being on time, by making sure that I arrive when I'm supposed to arrive. But some circumstances come up that stop that from happening. What would happen if I knew without a shadow of a doubt that despite the fact that I'm now going to be late for this experience, I'm okay. I'm still respectful. I'm still reasonable. I still am looking after myself and other people in this experience as much as is possible in this moment. Then being on time wouldn't be so painful for me. It wouldn't be so anxious making for me. I'd be able to walk in late and say, I'm really sorry that I'm late. Unavoidable traffic jam. I'm here now. Please forgive me. Let's get started. And I would know myself to be okay. There wouldn't have to be this anxiety over what are they thinking? What have I done? Am I okay? Because I haven't attached my okayness to being on time, even though I have a value system for being on time. Let me give you an example of one of my clients. This was the best control freak exercise I ever heard of. This woman was going on holiday with her friends, and she had 5 people in the car. It was like a little combi car, and she measured the boot space because she wanted to be able to fit everyone's luggage in the boot space. And she's so organized, she would call herself. Control freak, the rest of us might call her, but she's so organized that she decided that in order to fit all the luggage in the car for this trip to Cape Town, everybody had to bring the right size luggage. Now that's not an unreasonable idea. But because she was so attached to everybody bringing the right size luggage, she was already getting herself quite worked up about the idea that maybe people wouldn't bring the right size luggage. So she got out her tape measure and she measured the boot of the car. And then she calculated how many people were going to be in the car, and then she gave them measurements for how big their luggage could be. She's super, super organized in order to get what she wants. She wants the luggage to fit. The problem is that she's attached her okayness to them bringing the right size luggage as per her measurements. What do you think happened? Did the people bring the right size luggage? Absolutely not. They brought all sorts of sizes of luggage and all sorts of pieces of too much luggage. She was so freaked out and so irritated and so frustrated and so angry with them for not just doing this very reasonable thing that she'd put in place for them, that she spent the whole way to Cape Town and the first 3 days of their holiday being peed off. Do you see the problem? She wanted to feel okay. So she put all of these rules out there. This is the size of your luggage. And then she said to herself unconsciously, if the size of their luggage is correct, everything's going to be okay. But I'm attaching my okayness to the size of their luggage being correct. The moment people brought the wrong size luggage, she had to be not okay. The moment she was out of control of the situation that she had so carefully set up to be in control of, she had to be not okay. So I want to ask you, where are you doing this in your life to a greater or a lesser extent? Where are you attaching yourself, your well-being, your sense of okayness to something that you imagined up? Something that you created in your mind that wasn't a real thing. My okayness, it's not a real thing that my okayness is determined by what's going on outside of me, by how big your luggage is or whether I arrive on time for a meeting. My okayness lives within me based on the quality of my thinking, of my conversation, of what is going on in my mind. My okayness is not created by how big your luggage is. So where in your life are you busy attaching your well-being, your okayness, your I'll be okay, I'll be successful, I'll be enough, I'll be seen as enough, to something that you don't necessarily have full control of? That you're trying to make an imprint, a control imprint over, but you're not always successful. And can you notice That on those rare occasions where things have gone according to plan and you have been in control of a situation, or you managed to have a situational outcome happen in the way that you desire it to happen, that you've been very okay in that moment. And because you've been very okay in that moment, you've attached your okayness once again to control in a very strong way. You've said, oh, because I was in control, I'm okay. And let me just be more in control over everything in future. These are the moments that give us this conditioning, this training that keeps us working harder and harder and harder in the very thing that hurts us. What actually happened in those moments is that because I was attached to something coming along in that way, I felt the great relief of that thing being in the way that I wanted it to be. And so I felt okay in that moment. All of it was happening in my mind. It wasn't the actual outcome, but my attachment to it being that outcome that made me feel okay in the moment, or made me feel not okay in the moment that something didn't happen according to plan. So I'm pointing you in a new direction here. Most people have looked to the outside world to find their sense of okayness. And when we use control as a way to be okay, we're very much looking to the outside world to find our sense of okayness. And it's constantly beating us up because we're really not in that much control in our lives. I would like you to be able to look internally. And in order to do that, you need to decouple these two things. The outcome that I desire or I've made up that I want, and my own okayness. These two things need to become very separate to you. So that in future when you want something, you can want it, but when it's not happening, you can still be fine. You can go for it, you can push for it, you can work for it, but when it doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, you can still be okay. This is the art of living a comfortable, happy life. Knowing the difference between what's real and what's made up. And in this case, what's made up is, this has to look in a certain way for me to be okay. My challenge for you this week is to go ahead and start noticing where you're putting your well-being, your sense of okayness, your happiness onto situational outcomes that you've made up. If you can start to see that and start to stop doing that, you're going to have a much happier life all in all. Good luck with that exercise. Enjoy your week.